Ended in the Trump administration's appeal to deploy federal guardsmen to Portland, Oregon, against the wishes of local and state officials. The appellate judge, a Trump appointee, is now going to take the case under advisement after grilling both sides about several topics, including the definition of a rebellion and the threat that anti-ICE protests have on federal agents on the ground. Let's get some perspective now with Angelita Morillo. She's a member of the Portland City Council. Miss, thank you so much for being with us. I want to play some sound for you of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem from the White House yesterday. Let's listen.
I was in Portland yesterday and had the chance to visit with the governor of Oregon and also the mayor. They're in town, and they are absolutely covering up the terrorism that is hitting their streets. These leaders in these local cities, along with Pritzker and Johnson, ignore what's going on, or, sir, they're helping Antifa cover it up.
I wonder what you say to those claims, whether there is terrorism and whether you're helping Antifa cover it up.
You know, I never thought that renowned puppy killer Kristi Noem would be so afraid of protesters wearing frog costumes and chicken costumes, but here we are. Our city provided very classic dignitary protections for dignitaries that come into our city. It was nothing out of the norm. We were not hiding anything. The reason she didn't see anything on the ground is because everything here is under control. People are exercising their right to free speech as they are allowed to under the Constitution, if that still matters. But no, nothing is out of control. There is no terrorism happening here. I think that they are just a very scared people.
What about the claim that Antifa is operating outside this ICE facility? Have you seen evidence of that?
I don't know what the word Antifa means to them. To me, it means people who stand against fascism. So they would label anyone who is anti this current administration imbuing our local governments and taking over everything as fascists, I presume.
And what about this claim that local officials, including the mayor and governor, and you heard Noem allude to some of it there, that they've refused to render aid to ICE officers because there have been even limited incidents of folks with incendiary devices outside that facility, and some of the demonstrations have gotten rowdy. Have any local officials intervened to not allow local police to render aid?
I would love for you to define what incendiary devices mean or what a crowd being described as rowdy means, because it's my understanding that, again, people are still allowed to protest and get a little rowdy and exercise their First Amendments. That doesn't mean that we need the National Guard or the military to come in to intervene. Portland is a sanctuary city, which means that our police are not allowed to aid ICE in their deportations, but the police have actually made arrests of protesters on the ground, both right-wing agitators who have come in to get good clips for their live streams and protesters here from Portland. So this idea that our police are not handling the situation fairly is, I would say, inaccurate.
Sure. There was a report of some form of incendiary device. I don't have the description right in front of me, but I combed through some of the police reports over the last several months, going back to June. And you're right, there have been dozens, you could say, of arrests, but nothing that amounts to an actual terrorism charge. Nevertheless, if the appeals court does rule in the president's favor, allowing the deployment of National Guard into Portland, how do you think local officials will respond?
I mean, let me be unequivocally clear. The city of Portland does not need the National Guard or the military to come in. And even if protests elevate, that does not mean that it is normal under this country to have the military or the National Guard come in. That's just not something that has ever been acceptable historically and is not acceptable right now. So we have seen the decision in 2 lower courts that reaffirmed this and that have told us people are on the ground. They are seeing the evidence. These judges, who were Trump appointed, by the way, observed that there was nothing happening on the ground that would require military intervention. So if this goes to the Ninth Circuit Court and they choose to reject that, then we are going to have to address that on a case-by-case basis. But I would be extremely disappointed if that were the ruling. And I think that it would be a breakdown of our constitutional rule of law here in this country.
Portland City Council member Angelita Murillo, thank you so much for the time and point of view.
Thank you.
Ahead on CNN News Central, reigniting the controversy over the White House's claim about Tylenol's link to autism. The latest on Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s comments when we come back.
If Tony Shalhoub calls and says, I want to eat bread, what is the answer besides yes?
This is my first time in Sao Paulo, my first time in Brazil.
We're bringing two cultures together with a beef patty croissant.
It's not just flavor, it's memory and migration on a plate.
It's really special connecting with all of you. This is the best